Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen demands I return the Christmas gift she gave me. After that, no security light allowed? No problem. And after that, am I the jerk for telling coworker her choice of names for her twins is idiotic? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to return her Christmas gift. Not like you ever get me anything good anyways, Reddit boy. So please tap that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen demands I return the Christmas gift she gave me. I, 19 female, have a cousin that's 1 year younger than me. Her mom and my dad are siblings and very close, and we're both only kids, so we were raised practically like sisters. So, our Nana would always make us come on different days before Christmas to make us open our presents from her. Maybe to make sure we never saw each other's stuff as we opened them. But later, I would go to my cousin's house and see her with all of these nice, wonderful gifts and get confused and upset. My stuff was never that nice or expensive. After a few years, I began to realize that I was getting the second best stuff. If my cousin got Nike shoes for Christmas, I would get $10 shoes from a local store. If she got a new camera, I would get a disposable one. My clothes wouldn't be name brand like hers. She would even get more than me sometimes. I tried really hard not to let it bother me, but it was hard not to get jealous when I saw her stuff constantly. Last year, I got into an argument with my Nana and blew up on her. I accused her of favoritism and demanded we not get Christmas presents this year from her. We were old enough not to need presents, and I always felt like she got mine more out of obligation than joy. She denied it strongly, but said she would try harder if I felt like that. I agreed to another Christmas with her. A week ago, I went to my grandma's house by myself a day before my cousin. Most of my gifts were lackluster, but I appreciated the thought and effort she put in because it was closer to what I liked than usual. One of my gifts, though, made me feel great. A pair of round-cut diamond earrings. They were gorgeous and made of 10-karat yellow gold. Obviously very pricey. I had never been given something so expensive before. When I looked them up later, I found them to be over $400. I immediately thanked her for my earrings. I was smiling the whole time, and so was Nana. It felt like she finally understood what I had felt and was making up for years of treating me differently. The next day, however, she called and said I needed to bring back one of the presents. My cousin's earrings and mine had been swapped because she mislabeled our presents and she hadn't realized I had the wrong ones. I was suspicious and I texted my cousin and asked for a picture of my actual gift, cubic zirconia. They looked sort of similar with the shape and the colors. Furious, I refused to return the earrings. They had been labeled with my name and I was so happy to have them. My grandma should have pointed it out to me before I left with them. I said these would make up for all the favoritism over the years. Even now, a week later and close to Christmas, my grandma is hounding me about them. She's called me selfish and greedy and told me I ruined my cousin's Christmas. Even my cousin won't speak to me because I stole her diamonds, and she refuses to acknowledge that she always got better stuff. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but give them back. They will never bring you anything but pain or go no contact with grandma. She had made her choice, and now you both can live with it as opposed to just you. Question: what does your parents say about all of this? Not the jerk, but your grandma is quite the jerk. The separate visits for Christmas make absolutely no sense to me, except of course if I was planning on giving better gifts to one of my grandkids over the other one. Some people may argue that you are greedy and materialistic, but I don't see it that way. Rather, I see it as someone who just wanted their grandma to give them equal gifts as they were giving their cousin, especially because you even said that you didn't even want gifts this year. I'm sure you wouldn't have thought anything more about getting $10 shoes if your cousin also got the same. As for the earrings, never give them back, and just suggest to your grandma that she buy a similar pair for cousin. Reply: when I was growing up, all 13 of my cousins opened their presents under the tree, but my dad always gave my brother and I ours separately in the den. Because our grandparents couldn't be bothered to actually get us something and felt humiliated when my dad gave us gifts from them in front of the group, I didn't figure this out until a while ago. They didn't like my mom, so they never loved us. After my parents got divorced, we were basically ignored, and I'm so glad my grandpa passed before I figured it out, so I at least could have some good memories that aren't tainted with hatred. Not the jerk, OP. Grandma knows what she's doing, or she would have taken the L on this one. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Grandma? Please let us know. No security light allowed? No problem. Years ago, when my wife and I had purchased a home, the builder had told us it might be part of an HOA depending on how many homes they ultimately constructed. We were among the first 5 buyers, so we pretty much had free reign to change what we wanted via permissions from the builders that those changes would be added to what was turned over to the HOA, and as for as long as we lived there, the changes could stay. The one change we did was add a motion security light on the back of our fence because my neighbor's kid would smoke back there, and I didn't want to smell it sitting on my patio or when I had the windows open on nice evenings. Well, that ticked my neighbors off for whatever reason, and she refused to believe her kid would be doing that, even though it didn't point towards any other home, just the grass between my fence and the woods. It kept the kids from smoking there without calling the cops on something so foolish and petty. But since it was cleared from the builder, she couldn't do anything. Well, 6 months later, we end up with an HOA, and she makes it priority 1 to get the lights. Several other neighbors followed what I did, whose homes faced the wooded area, removed. The requirement to get it changed, since they were builder approved, was 80% of the community, so the only votes to keep came from those of us on the back of the property. So we have to remove them, being permanent changes. Not even 3 days later, her kid is back there smoking again. The HOA counter to why I had it was to call the police non-emergency number, but that's absolutely stupid to risk messing up some kid's life because he just wanted to smoke, when that's an issue with his parents, who, remember, don't even believe he does it, should be dealing with. So now I'm pretty livid. This jerk cried to the point I had to remove a cheap and non-disruptive fix. She refused to be a parent and keep her kid from impeding on us, so it's time for me to be petty. The next day after her kid first went back there, I go out, buy a 12-foot section of 4x4, wire, concrete, and large planter, and 3 6,000 lumen floodlights, and build essentially a mini portable stadium light setup, rigged to the motion sensor, so whenever anyone passed by my fence, instead of being a small area immediately behind my house lit up, the sun came out to the woods with one light giving her home an X-ray. The first time her kid went back there, it was glorious. I got a picture of him for proof before he skirted off, and it sent her through the roof getting those free X-rays. I showed her the picture and she still didn't care, saying if it goes off again, I'll call the police. And I was fine with it, because I told her they'd see the same picture I'd just shown her. In reality, they wouldn't, but Martha, the manatee, didn't know that, and I didn't expect her to try and call my bluff, which she never did. Just complained to the HOA a lot. In the morning time, I'd lay the contraption down so it couldn't be seen and raise it up after it got dark. About a week after this, I get a summons to the HOA meeting that's happening that week, and since it was disciplinary for my contraption, their lawyer was there and they want to hear the case. So I lay everything out from builder to pictures showing how the original light didn't shine any brighter than the one on her porch and couldn't be seen from inside the homes. Her vendetta to change the HOA rules to suit what she wanted. 3 of the 5 other neighbors who had to remove their security lights were also there to argue for getting them back when I went. After about 40 minutes, the lawyer comes back and pretty much said, "Well, Mr. and Mrs. Jeff A. Brutus, you are right. This isn't a permanent structure, so it technically is allowed, but you can't have a light facing her property any longer. In addition, by the 1st of next month, you will all be allowed to reinstall your smaller lights, as they did provide a measure of security that benefits the property as a whole." So Martha was blessed with another week of the sun on a pole and being mad about it. Those of us who lived facing the woods got our lights back, and after reselling the lights, I made most of my money back. I spent on supplies making that monstrosity. It was absolutely worth spending the few $100s to out-petty a bad parent and insufferable neighbor. Am I the jerk for telling a coworker her choice of names for her twins is idiotic? I cannot believe that there is a split opinion for this at my office, but here we go. A coworker of mine, 39 female, recently had twin boys after a long battle with infertility. She has made her first appearance into the office with her new babies to introduce them to our team. When asked what she had named the boys, as up until this appearance she was undecided, she told me that she was naming them Sean. When I asked about the other baby, she said, "No, they are both Sean, one with an A and one with an E, so Sean and Scene." This coworker's last name is also Sean. When I pointed this out, she said, "Yes, like Tom Tom or JJ." I immediately, and without thinking, said, "That is the most idiotic thing I've heard, and it's going to be so confusing." A bunch of people laughed, and a bunch immediately looked away. After she left, I got a few text messages saying it's not my place to comment on people's choice of name. Am I the jerk for saying that that is a terrible naming idea? Edit additional information. No, they don't have middle names. She wanted their names to be like Tom Tom or JJ. This is apparently not the first round of negative feedback she's had. We are on good terms. We've worked together across 3 companies over 12 years. She just said, "It'll grow on you." The names are both pronounced Sean, like Sean. I'm gonna get downvoted for this, but not the jerk. I'm an identical twin. Matching names is probably the most cruelest thing you could do to a person. It's not just confusing. It would keep the twins from developing identities outside of their twinness. You know what happens to twins that can't establish independent identities? At best, they need years of family therapy to work through their relationship problems. At worst, they hate each other. Twins have it hard enough working through what it means to be a twin. Why make that harder? Also, speaking practically, forget parents that do that creative spelling BS for common names. There's no way you should look at the name Scene and think to yourself, "Yep, that's clearly pronounced as Sean." Edit. Apparently I misjudged this thread. When I wrote this, everyone was saying that OP was the jerk because they were rude and their opinion was not needed. Reading it back, OP probably could have phrased it better, but it needed to be said. Also, when I was criticizing the name, I was referring exclusively to the name Scene and not Sean. Sean is a normal name, and quite frankly, the correct spelling of that name. Scene is the ridiculous name. Not the jerk. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Those poor, poor boys. In the UK, there are 2 famous footballers whose father's name is Neville Neville. It is a well-known joke throughout the country that this is his name and he is ridiculed for it. I can't imagine also being a twin with the exact same name, but one of them is spelled totally wrong. This woman is inherently selfish for doing this to her kids. I'm shocked it was allowed when she registered the births. Sweden has a law banning names which will cause offense or discomfort to the kid, and Denmark has a law banning names that aren't on a list of pre-approved names. And this nonsense is why. Well, what do you think? Were these names okay for the babies or not? Please let us know. Why do some parents insist on giving their kids such stupid names? Am I the jerk for replacing the stones in my grandma's ring? My grandma passed 10 years ago, and when her estate was settled, I ended up with her wedding ring. She didn't leave it to me specifically, but that's the way things turned out. It fits me, but I was already married at the time of her passing. When I got the ring, that was the first time I had ever seen it. I was close with Grandma, but never knew her to wear any jewelry. She must have worn it a lot at some point though, because the center stone and one of the side stones had fallen out. It made me sad to see it that way, and my first thought at the time was to save and buy new stones for it so it could look new again. My husband said I shouldn't, because since I already have a wedding ring, this one isn't really mine to keep or wear. One of our future kids might want to use it as a wedding ring and pick out their own stones. The ring sat in my drawer for 10 years, and just recently I decided to go for it anyway. We do have kids now, but there's no telling if they'll ever get married, or if they'll want to use this ring when they do. They never even met my grandma, so why would they? It'd be more appealing to them with the stones in it anyway, so I had it restored. The stones are fairly small compared to modern rings, so the price wasn't a deal breaker for our family. It was on par with any other gift I might have picked up for myself at Christmas. My husband is annoyed and says I'm selfish for choosing to enjoy the ring for myself instead of saving it for others. But it's a ring, not a pie. It'll still be around in 20 years if one of the kids wants it when they get engaged. I can't believe I have to ask, but is there any way he's right and I'm the jerk here? Edit. Wow, this has really taken off. Thank you for the awards and the reassurance and perspective you've all offered. A couple of questions keep coming up. 1. How did I pay for the stones? From a joint account. We don't have individual accounts. The amount was small though. It's Christmas, and I always spend roughly this amount for my gift. 2. Is the ring nicer or more expensive than my engagement ring for my husband? No. My grandparents were rural farmers and had neither the money nor any practical use for extravagant things. Big diamonds weren't in fashion back then. Its value is almost entirely sentimental, which leads to my above point. Replacing the stones wasn't expensive. They were small and affordable. 3. Are you wearing it instead of your own wedding ring? I still wear my wedding ring and plan to wear this one on my right hand. I haven't worn it at all yet, since it isn't Christmas for a few more days. Not the jerk. Tell your husband to shut up. It's your heirloom to do with what you want. If your kids want it, that's a big if, they would 100% prefer the stones already there. Not the jerk. Why exactly is your husband inserting himself so much into this decision of yours? Doesn't he want you to enjoy your grandma's ring? Can you wear it on your other ring finger that isn't on your wedding ring hand? You say you didn't spend an outrageous amount any more than you normally would for a present for yourself. So what exactly is his issue here besides being annoying, controlling, and immature about your decision and about your ring? Heck, you could wear it on a chain around your neck to feel closer to your grandma if you don't want to wear it on your hand. It would also serve as a replacement ring if ever your wedding ring is getting cleaned or repaired for any reason. To me, he just seems like he's being a Grinch, unless you can provide some other reasonable reason as to why he was opposed to you restoring and wearing your grandma's ring. No, I don't work here. You okay? Anything I can do to help? The holidays are stressful, I get that. Even without the supply chain issues that have been happening all over the world, getting that perfect gift for your loved ones can be difficult. We've all heard the songs about trying to fight the crowds, about obnoxious relatives, the frenzy of getting that latest hot toy so one can look on proudly Christmas morning as your kids tear through the wrapping paper like a pack of consumer-driven Mongols. Sometimes, though, a little patience and a kind word can soothe the insanity. Which is how I found myself yesterday. Have the day off from my retail job, have already done my shopping and wrapping, and decided to treat myself to a movie. Our local theater closed during the lockdown, so the only option is about 20 minutes away in one of those pre-planned shopping villages. Along with the movie theater, there's restaurants, retail establishments, and a good-sized bookstore. I had some time to spend before my show, Spider-Man: No Way Home, for those wondering. So I'm at this bookstore, dodging the mad rush of people trying to get those last-minute purchases. I'm in the history section, seeing if there's any good WW2 books I don't have, and I notice that one of the tables is just a mess. No issues, I start straightening it up, sorting the books, and helping my fellow retail employees. Now, I'm wearing a wool coat and a flat cap and a mask. Nothing that makes me look like I work there. But since I've made the mistake of cleaning something, I'm now a target. Hey! I turn to have a smartphone shoved into my face and my eyes cross. Help me find this. Whoa! I take a step back, and there's a very anxious lady gesticulating with her phone wildly. I need this now. Slow down. What's wrong? I said help me find this now. She's stressed out. Might look like a typical Karen, but I don't know her story. I don't work here, and before you say a word, I was straightening that table up because I felt like it. Now, let's try this again. What are you looking for? What do you mean you don't? I cut her off. I mean exactly what I just said. I do not work here. But what are you looking for? She deflates and is on the verge of tears. I need this for my kids. She holds up her phone. On the screen is Betrayal at House on the Hill. Good game. And I can't find it. My daughter just wants this, and I just can't find anything in this stupid... I know where that is. Take a moment. Breathe. It's gonna be okay. She's just stressed to heck and back. I'm sorry. She just keeps saying, I just lost my mom. She's trying not to cry as I guide her to the games. The spot for Betrayal is empty, but I find a copy in another spot before she has a meltdown. Okay, here you go. Anything else you need help with? She's holding the box in her hands, fingers nearly crushing the edges. Why did you help me? She squeaks. I'm such a jerk. Because you needed help. Merry Christmas. She gave me a grateful smile and went to pay. No, I didn't get a pay it forward. I didn't get a free coffee. I didn't get a thank you from the employees. But that smile, to help a fellow human being in a stressful time, worth it. God bless us, everyone. Grandma Karen doesn't understand what a closed section means, threatens me with corporate, doesn't realize we have a prior history. I used to be a manager at a TGI Chili Bees far back in the year of our Lord 2014. I was in charge of front of house, and I hated it. Stories like this are why. Slow weekday evening, and we've got a skeleton crew on hand. We were managing just fine, but given the size of our restaurant, along with the low numbers, we had the far back corner section completely closed down. And by that, I mean lights off, chairs up on the table shut down. The situation would have been obvious to any normal person. In walks Grandma Karen. I knew this woman from a previous restaurant I worked at. She came in a few times a week with her bridge group, the majority of which were sinfully obnoxious. They were the type to always order the bare minimum from our lunch menu, only drink water, yet demand multiple lemons, sugar, etc., and leave candy wrappers everywhere. They demanded constant attention from our servers and were lucky to leave whatever change they got back from paying cash for tip. Example, $9.78 bill, they're leaving that 22 cents if they feel generous. And guess what? Her bridge group wanted to play a night game. Why at TGI Chili Bees of all places? At least my last restaurant was in a hotel, so they could have some degree of privacy. I just happened to be watching the host stand when she came in. She tells me she wants to sit in the back, away from everyone else, so they can be as far away from other customers as possible. Lo and behold, she points right at that closed section. Now, as the front of house manager, I could easily have accommodated them back there. But I knew exactly what kind of customers they were going to be, and I wasn't willing to put any of my servers through that BS. So I told her, no, that section is closed, and I don't have a server back there. But I can put her in the far corner of an open section. Grandma Karen. I don't want to be in that section. I want to be in that corner back there. Me. Ma'am, I don't have a server back there, and the section is completely closed down. Do you see the chairs back there? We don't even have condiments on the table. We're doing some deep cleaning with those. The customer is always right, and I'm the customer, so we're going to sit back there. Me. Ma'am, are you willing to pull those chairs down yourself? Because we can't spare the staff to do it right now. At this point, she could tell I wasn't going to budge, and my host had come up to the stand, so she mumbles something about just putting her wherever. My server gets a place set up for them, and that seems to be the end of it. The rest of the group comes in, eats, plays cards, does their thing. I recognize quite a few of them. Several even stopped and said hi, not realizing I wasn't at my previous restaurant anymore. After they finish and the rest of the group leaves, Grandma Karen is getting her things together and points her bony finger at me to call me over. Grandma Karen. I just want you to know that you were extremely rude. The customer is always right, and you needed to let us have that section. I just started trying to explain again that I didn't have the staff to man the entire restaurant, but she wasn't having it. I will be calling corporate on you. I already have their number. I'm going to tell them you wouldn't accommodate a group of senior citizens, and we will be taking our business elsewhere. We would have been in here multiple times a week for our meetings, so you just lost yourself a lot of business, buddy. I specifically remember thinking it was weird for a woman well into her 80s to be calling a 20-something man buddy. Well, here's where it gets good. Remember me telling you that I was familiar with her group from my previous restaurant? Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry you feel that way, but if you want to continue to hold your bridge games at insert old restaurant's name here, they have an excellent dinner menu, and they're open from 4:30 to 9. They would even be able to put you at your usual table. You could see the mental process displaying on her face, confusion to realization to fury to pure resignation. Once it occurred to her that I not only knew her and her group, but what kind of customers they really were, she literally said nothing else. She walked straight out of the restaurant and out of my life. I never saw her in there again. Last I heard, the bridge group ended up leaving my old restaurant too. They got upset when the dining room manager finally told them they weren't allowed to bring in outside candy anymore because they had managed to wreck 2 vacuum cleaners due to wrappers getting sucked up into the filters. Am I the jerk for trying to stop my niece from taking stuff home in her pockets that doesn't belong to her? My niece is 8. She has 3 siblings, but they don't seem to have this problem. She likes to put things in her pockets, and then she forgets about them and takes them home, and then I never see them again. My playroom is really organized, and a lot of the toys in there are part of displays or sets that they can play with when they come visit. For example, we have a life-size Paw Patrol tower with all of the puppies. The puppies are a really important part of the set, and we also have a table with a wooden forest scene made out of stacker blocks. Wild animals, mountains, hills, and trees make up the set and don't mesh together if a piece is missing. When the kids go home, I put everything back in its place for next time. The puppies sit waiting on their respective cars on the Paw Patrol lookout tower. The wooden sheep sit on the hills and mountains, with a rainbow stacker making up the rear of the scene. Lately, pieces have been disappearing. I noticed that she had put one of the animals from our stacker set in her pocket, and I told her to make sure that she didn't accidentally take it home. This upset her grandma, who was listening to the conversation. In the end, the fox was still lost and was never seen again. I have since taken my niece to different craft fairs and stores, and she has a habit of getting excited and putting on jewelry and things like that. getting distracted, and then walking away with the unpaid-for jewelry around her neck or wrists. I have grabbed her a few times now and taken the jewelry off of her. So has her grandma, so she knows that this is an issue with her. Well, since little pieces have been going missing, I've mentioned it a few times, just telling her mom or grandma that she might have accidentally, emphasis on accidentally, taken toys home with her in her pockets. But it's gotten to the point now that they have directly accused me of saying that she's stealing, and even told me to drop it and forget about the lost toys because they were small and not worth the insults in the long run. This happened after she came home from a friend's house with something that clearly belonged to them, and I said that we needed to get it back to them and maybe have a talk with her. Grandpa actually sided with me on this and said that even if it's an accident, she needs to become self-aware before she gets in trouble in a store or something. Grandma became upset at the both of us and said that it wasn't worth pressing. She's 8. This is not an accident. You are not the jerk. This behavior will cause her serious problems in the future. She's lucky to have one person in her life who actually cares. The worst part is their refusal to do anything is what's causing the problem. Either she does have issues with focus and forgets she has the item, or is stealing. That's something to deal with. But by keeping said items, they're either rewarding the theft or taking an innocent habit and making it theft. People will not want her around once they realize it's her, whereas if it's innocent and you're always dropping the stuff back, taking it off her before leaving, they're more likely to be forgiving and possibly remind her themselves. Plus, if they're writing it off because she's young, they'll likely not actually teach her not to and just expect her to magically know not to one day and cause major issues. My mother demands I let her stay at me and my girlfriend's house. I'm literally over the moon for the past several hours despite what has happened between me and my mother again. I've made several posts on here about how my mother behaves towards my relationship and my girlfriend, Eva. For those of you who haven't seen them, Eva is of foreign ancestry and has vitiligo, which my mother doesn't like at all, though I find it absolutely beautiful. She has done and said some very hurtful things to break us apart, which, thanks to my incredibly supportive father and many more family members, only led to her having to stay at her sister's, who was pretty much the same as her, until today. Even though my aunt is hateful towards Eva as my mother, unlike my mother, she's not a lazy couch potato, and after some time got fed up with my mother and gave her some time to get out of her apartment. At least that's what I'm told. Because my father wouldn't accept her back home, she tried her luck with me, despite the fact that she already stayed at me and Eva's place months ago, and it ended up in a huge argument, which had left both me and Eva in tears. So earlier today, my mother appeared at the gate. Great. At first, I thought that maybe she would go away if we pretend to not be at home, but it didn't work. The longer she was standing there, the more she was shouting and hitting the bell. I accepted my fate and went to confront her. Mom: "There you are. What were you two doing that took you so long?" Me: "What do you want? I told you to stay away from us. I told you to get the heck out of our lives." Mom: "Well, instead of being at your aunt's, I thought of spending the holiday with you and Eva." I could not believe it. Not only did she have the audacity to come and ask to stay, but she addressed Eva by her name, not "that girl of yours" or some hurtful insult. Me: "Well, too bad. We're not letting you ruin our Christmas and New Year's." "Oh, come on. I'm just trying to get along." Me: "That's what we tried when we let you stay last time, and look how that ended." "It's not my fault that she's so insolent." Me: "She's not. You, however, are. Not only for what you did before, but you have the audacity to come here and demand to stay with us?" "How dare you? How dare you choose this ugly jerk over—" I interrupted her. Me: "Over you? Always." "How dare you? You shouldn't throw your life away for someone so ugly. There's tons of better people to date." Me: "I'm happy with her. Happier than ever. But you still have to be hurtful towards her." Mom: "I'm just trying to do what's the best for you." "I know what's best for you." Me: "If you did what was best for me, you'd leave us alone." I then went inside while my mother was insulting both of us. Me: "You're the disgusting one here. I'm just saying what I think of you and doing what I think is right." And I slammed the door shut. She continued with her insults until some neighbors threatened to call the police. Public offense, I assume. Then she left. Later, I called my father, who told me that Aunt basically kicked my mother out. Edit: Thank you everyone so much for the kind words, and since I can't do so in person, awards. and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I was told by my father that she's staying over at some friend's place. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.